Greetings from Tiri University. I am Dr. Nurunisa Begum, Associate Professor and Curator working at the Conservation of Natural Resources Group. The chapter today that I am covering is plant taxonomy. As said by John Hildebrand, walking through a meadow, calling the plants by name is like entering a room of friends instead of strangers. That's the beauty of the plant and knowing them. So today we'll be looking at the introductory aspect of the plant taxonomy. The structure of the topic that I am covering today would start with the historical concept of knowing the plants in the country. Was it a systematic way of understanding the plant, and what is it? And then we would be understanding, is taxonomy and systematics the same or are they different? Later, we would be looking at the basic components of taxonomy. What are the ones, such as identification and nomenclature and classification? And the taxonomy has developed from its initiation till date. So what are the different phases that we have seen in the systematic is what is going to be briefed in the different phases of systematics. And does taxonomy play any role in the society and in the world? Is it important to study? So that is the relevance and importance that we are going to cover in the importance of taxonomy. In India, the history of botanical science dates back to the Vedic period, that is approximately 1500 BC to 500 BC. It started the development of agriculture when humans undertook cultivation of various food crops. The early treatises on botany, like Ayurveda, with the works such as Charak Samhita, Sushrit Samhita, they were primarily utilitarian. One of the earliest works dealing with the plant life in a scientific manner is Vriksha Ayurveda, compiled by Parashara. This formed the basis of botanical teaching and medical studies in ancient India. This work deals with the categorization, morphology, and anatomy of plants, nature, property of soil types, distribution, and distribution of the forest in the country. It also covers the systems of classification based on the comparative morphology of plants. Now, the example, what you're seeing here is the flower of a cruciferous member, where the petals are in the form of a cross. In this classical classification, it is known as swastika ganium. The word swastika means, in the Hindu terminology, a cross kind of a structure which is used and it is also resembling the cross. So this is several such examples can be seen in the work of this particular Vriksha Ayurveda. Taxonomy is largely dealing with the naming and classification of the plants, and the systematic deals with naming, classification, and it also involves the study of evolutionary relationships. It also includes cladistics and phylogenetics. It deals with also understanding the evolutionary history of the plant species. Taxonomy is the science of naming, describing, and classifying the plants of the world. Taxonomists identify, describe, and arrange the species into classification, including those that are new to science. How does a person identify the plant species? If he knows the plant, it is well and good, but unknown plants can be confirmed by referring the botanical published works such as floras, monographs, and manuals. One can also visit a herbarium and match the water specimens and confirm the identity of the species. One also could identify the species by getting it authenticated by a taxonomist. The other component of taxonomy is nomenclature and classification. So generally, one if has to describe a plant name, it has to have two parts, that is genera and specific epithet. Usually, a genera has the first alphabet, which is capital, followed by all small letter, and specific epithet, which is all small letter. Thus, a botanical species name becomes genera, specific epithet, along with the author citation. If there is a variety of the species, it is also mentioned. And usually a variety is having the species with the variations which is developed in the nature naturally, whereas a cultivar is developed by a breeder. The International Code of Nomenclature for Algae, Fungi, and Plants is a set of rules and recommendations that govern the scientific naming of all organisms traditionally treated as algae, fungi, or plants, whether fossil or non-fossil, including blue-green algae like cyanobacteria, chytrids, oomycetes, slime molds, and photosynthetic protists, with their taxonomically related non-photosynthetic groups. For cultivated plants, the International Code of Nomenclature for Cultivated Plant, ICNCP, provides a guide to the rules and regulations for naming cultigens. The plants whose origin for selection is primarily due to intentional human activity. It is also known as cultivated plant code. The classification is largely seen at three different levels. Initially, it was started as an artificial system of classification. This was the first type of classification that was introduced by the Sweden botanist Carl von Linnaeus. He is known as a father of taxonomy. This classification is based on many superficial morphological characters. The natural system of classification, this was proposed by Benjamin Hooker. This classification was based on the characters of the root system, leaves, fruits, and seeds. Phylogenetic system classification that was proposed by the botanists Engler and Prantl. This was based on evolutionary characters. The taxonomical advancement phases are largely divided into four phases: exploratory phase, consolidation phase, experimental or biosystematic phase, or encyclopedic or holotaxonomic phase. The exploratory or pioneer phase, this phase marks the beginning of plant taxonomy, collecting specimens and building herbarium records. The few specimens of a species in the herbarium are the only record of its variation. These specimens are, however, useful in a preliminary inventory of flora through discovery, description, naming, and identification of plants. Here, morphology and distribution provides the data on which the systematic must rely. Taxonomical experience and judgment are particularly important in this phase. Most areas of tropical Africa and tropical Asia are passing through this phase. Consolidation or systematic phase includes where herbarium records are ample and enough information is available concerning variations from field studies. This development is helpful in the preparation of floras and monographs. It also aids in better understanding of the degree of variations in a species. Third, experimental or biosystematic phase. During this phase, the herbarium records and variation studies are complete. In addition, information on biosystematics that is, studies on transplant experiments, breeding behavior, and chromosome, is also available. Transplant experiments involve collecting seeds, saplings, or other propagules from morphologically distinct populations from different habitat and growing them under common environmental conditions. Pure ecological variations in population disappear under a common environment, whereas if differences still persist, then they are genetically distinct. Last, encyclopedic or holotaxonomic phase. Here, not only the previous three phases are attained, but information on all the botanical fields is also available. This information is assembled, analyzed, and a meaningful synthesis of analysis is provided for understanding phylogeny. Collection of data, analysis, synthesis are the jobs of an independent discipline of systematics, referred to as numerical taxonomy. The first two phases of systematics are often considered under alpha taxonomy and the last phase under omega taxonomy. At present, only a few persons are involved in the encyclopedic work, and that too in a few isolated taxa. It may thus be safe to conclude that though in a few groups omega taxonomy is within reach, for a great majority of plants, mainly in the tropics, even the alpha stage has not been crossed. The total integration of available information on plant kingdom is thus only a distant dream at present. The importance of taxonomy is known today at different levels of fields, starting from knowing the biodiversity of our place, understanding of the ecosystem, and also, as we know, the global biodiversity is being lost at an unprecedented rate as a result of human activities, and decisions must be taken now to combat this trend. But how do decision makers decide whether to establish protected areas if they don't know what has been protected? How can regulators identify and combat harmful invasive species if they cannot distinguish them from native species? How do developing countries ensure that they reap the benefits of the use of biological diversity if they don't know the biological diversity that is being used? Taxonomy provides a basic understanding about the components of biodiversity, which is necessity for effective decision making about the conservation and sustainable use. It also has helped us in coming out with various medicines such as aspirin, and also coming out with new drug from the plants such as from Trichopa zalanicus, we do have a Jivania, which is an energizing giving drug. It also helps us to understand the plants which are not safe for the country. So this was in brief about the world of plant taxonomy. This is just the tip of the iceberg that I could give in this short duration. Thank you.